Hi, everybody. We really appreciate and welcome you guys with us tonight. I know everybody's busy and it's so great for you to take some time and learn how to better have healthier, happier dogs. Lillian is like the best to do this. She's so totally devoted to dogs. She's been, okay, I'm going to get it right, Lillian, training dogs for 50 years, just a little while. And I can't even believe that. I can't even say that hardly. But she's got a 4-year degree in biology, which absolutely, to me, whenever I have a question on what she's going to teach us tonight, I go to Lillian because she just has a grasp of what we need to know and she helps us use it with our animals. And she's been doing this forever. She's totally devoted. She trains, she shows. I've got her pup who's now 4 years old, but just the best dogs. And so welcome. And Lillian, I think, oh no, you guys, questions. At the end, we're gonna have time for questions. So please write them down in the chat as we're going along and I'll catch them so we can get back to them. Lillian can't do the chat thing and break and talk to us about it. So we'll have Q&A at the end. So welcome all.
Thank you, Carolee. Yes, welcome. Carolee and I are so passionate about sharing this information. It means the world for us when we have new people looking into this. It makes us so excited. We've had stories up on stories up on stories. Just last week, we saved a dog that had an appointment for euthanasia twice. And he's healthy and eating and going for walks, and his mom is just over the moon. We're so excited. So we just live for moments like this, and this is our mission. So we are on a mission to save 100,000 dogs' lives. So we need help. We need help. We need to spread this information, scream it from the rooftops, get as far as we can all over the world, because this is making such an impact in animals. And like we like to say, at the other end of the leash, there's a caregiver, right? And or the other end of the reins, because Carolee does a lot with horses. So we touch so many lives, and we're so excited about this information. So a little bit about me, like Carolee said, I've been training dogs for 50 years. And for the last probably like 26, 27, I've embraced holistic modalities, both for healing. I started doing raw feeding 25 years ago when it wasn't even a thing. And I've done acupuncture, chiropractic. And the reason for that has been a little bit of frustration of getting into the same issues over and over, and me thinking like, why am I doing the same thing? It's not working. And as you can imagine, 26 years ago, there was no World Wide Web, so we could not go online and type, how do I blah, blah, blah. So it was books. I had awesome mentors, holistic vets that taught me a lot, that told me where to go, what to read. And I've just embraced that. And it's going to be almost 9 years. A vet, an equine vet, who's a good friend, called me and said, Lillian, you have to take a look at this. And I was like, okay. It wasn't the best moment because my husband had just been diagnosed with a very rare autoimmune condition, and I got this little voice that said, you need to pay attention, and I did. And this has been life-changing for our family, for my dogs, but then it has rippled into so many other people and animals. So it's been wonderful. So if you're here for the first time, I can guarantee you there's a reason why you needed to be here, and we're so excited that you are. So I'm going to get started. So what we're going to be talking tonight is Canine Nutrigenomics. It sounds like a fancy name, but it's a combination of nutrition and genes. So what it means is how nutrition can change our gene expression and optimize. In this case, we're focusing on the dogs because, of course, they're our love. But just think any mammal. And I've done one of the first reads into holistic healing was from this doctor, Dr. Martin Goldstein. The Nature of Animal Healing was his first book. And in another group of people that I follow, super interesting, this is The Truth About Pet Cancer. It's a 7-part documentary where they interviewed, I think, like 7 or 8 vets, holistic vets, and they covered so many topics. But why I like to kind of put a little like magnifying glass on the cancer issue is that because it's really becoming an epidemic among dogs. And I think people are taking it like there's nothing we can do about it, but I think there's a lot that we can do about it, and just people just don't know. So that's why we want to educate everybody. So there's a couple of things that I read and heard in these documentaries. And Dr. Golson said when he graduated from Cornell in 1973, it was just 1 out of 10 dogs that had cancer. And this is what really struck me. He said it was always a disease of the old. So if they had a young dog that came with a lump, they didn't even think that cancer was a possibility. And he says that now he commonly diagnoses dogs even as young as 18 months with terminal cancer. And then in the documentary, Rodney Habib, by the way, he and one of the holistic vets have come out with a new book. If you have to read this book, like have to. It's called The Forever Dog. Unbelievable information, the research, the studies that they have in there just to back up all this information. So one of the things they said in this documentary is that 50 years ago, they think people would have probably put the rate of cancer in dogs in 1 in 100 dogs. And according to the PhDs nowadays, the dog has the highest rate cancer of any mammal in the planet. This is just, I mean, I just don't have words for this. So he said, literally from last year's, them saying 1 in 2 dogs would get cancer. This year is 1 in 1.65 dogs. So we're almost, you know, if this keeps progressing at this rate, what this means is that every dog is going to be diagnosed with cancer. So one of the issues that all these holistic vets agree on is that the amount of environmental toxins that our dogs are exposed to is what's causing this uptick, this horrendous uptick in this rate. So of course, we don't have time to touch on each one individually, but I just want you to get like the bird's eye view of what is that our animals are being exposed to. So we can start here on the right: vaccinations, a lot of pharmaceuticals, antibiotics. So antibiotics literally means anti-life. So when your dog is prescribed antibiotics for a long period of time, you're killing the bad bugs, but you're also killing all the good bugs. So this can have massive consequences, especially, you know, because I have so many of my students, I start with puppies, and people will come and I can't come to class because my dog has blah, blah, blah. My puppy has blah, 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 and he's on antibiotics and she's on this. And I go like, oh my God, here we go. You know, these puppies from 3-4 months old are already, their gut bacteria is being destroyed. Then we have the normal pollution. Like Carolee and I, we are so lucky we live in Ocala, you know, on a farm and surrounded by trees and fresh air. But those of you that are living in cities, your dogs are exposed to the same toxins that are in the air if you live in a congested city with lots of traffic. Then we go on to everything we put on our dog's skin to fight, you know, the pesky fleas and the ticks. And it's almost like a necessary evil in some places, like here in Florida in summer, it's just horrific. And I cringe when I have to use one of these things. So it's just a reality. And I try to use natural as much as possible, but sometimes it's just not enough. So everything you put on your dog's skin will get absorbed within 20 seconds. So all these toxins, right? These topicals, the collars, whatever you use to bathe them, the regular shampoo, if you put any kind of conditioner, some people put sprays so that the dogs smell nice or to come out the knots. You really have to become like a label reader and try to pick products that are as clean as possible. Then this is, oh my God, I could talk about this like for an hour. The problem with the pesticides, if you have to walk your dog in parks or in the city where if the lawn looks beautiful, if there's not a weed inside, if all the flowers are beautiful, it means that that lawn is being treated with some sort of herbicide, pesticides to keep the bugs away. And you know what the label says is after it's dry, it's safe, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, who knows? But it's just one more thing to worry about, okay? Then we go to the inside of our homes. What researchers are telling us now is that because we spend so much time indoors, the inside of our homes is even more toxic than the outside. So we can start with the stuff that's sprayed on the furniture for flame retardant, to be stain resistant. If you use any kind of candles, scents, these plugins for the wall, the chemicals that you use to clean the floor. Then we go into the water. This becomes a big issue. We now have a new partner who is an autoimmune specialist, and he's done huge on research on electromagnetic frequencies and Wi-Fi, and he's adamant, like, turn your Wi-Fi off at night, turn your Wi-Fi off at night. And then let's go to the food. The food, I leave it for last, but it's probably one of the things that you have most control of, is what are you feeding and what water are you giving your dog. So if your dog eats strictly kibble, I really, really urge you. Well, if you read this forever, dog, you will never feed your dog kibble again. But I just want you to understand, just think like if you ate cereal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day of the week, 365 days a year, would you be a healthy person? I'm betting that your answer will be probably not. So there's two huge issues with kibble. If you feed a kibble that has any kind of grain, wheat, soy, corn, rice, oats, whatever, quinoa, all of those, if it's very hard for it to be organic. If it's not organic, it's from crops that have been genetically modified. What is the issue with genetically modified crops? Is that these are crops that were designed so that they can spray this glyphosate, this pesticide, this herbicide, so that all the weeds around it die, but the plants don't die. And the company that manufactures that makes these GMO seeds, and then also, by the way, sells the herbicide that you can treat the corn with, for years they said, oh, it just affects plants. But then later on, it was discovered that it also affects bacteria, and they affect the bacteria in the gut. So the lining of the gut is also being affected, and all the good bacteria in the gut is being demolished, is being killed by this. The problem is that any kind of animal protein, so whether it's chicken, turkey, beef, whatever it is, those animals that are being used to make the kibble are being fed grain that is genetically modified, plus the grain. So we get a double whammy. So that's issue number one. And then the second thing is the lack of moisture in this food. And what happens is that, it was Barbara who's here, she says, this just becomes like a paste in your dog's stomach. And your dog is now desperately trying to pull water from other sources, and eventually you will have kidney issues, just because the body is very smart. So it's trying to pull water from wherever, but it's overtaxing the kidneys. Okay. So this is just all this massive stuff combined. And now think of the following. Your dog does not wear shoes, so his paws, the pads of his feet, are in direct contact with all of this stuff that we've talked about. They lick their fur, they lick their paws. They don't take showers every day. They don't have any protective clothing. They lay lower to the ground. Most of these substances, like all this chemical stuff, is heavier than air. So once you spray the room for it to smell nice, or the candle is burning, those molecules are going to tend to go low. If you have rugs, those rugs also emit stuff. So you have an animal that's a lot smaller than we are, right? We're like over 150 pounds. Now you have a large dog, it's 50 pounds. But if we have little dogs, so you have this massive amount of toxins that are lower in the ground where they live most of the time, and they're being concentrated in a smaller animal. So is it a wonder that our they're really becoming the canaries in the coal mine, just being exposed to this massive amount of toxins. So all these toxins are going to cause inflammation and disease, and they are related to something called oxidative stress. Now, I had no clue what oxidative stress was 9 years ago until I joined this company. But I did know what free radical damage is. So oxidative stress, so let me go back. Free radical damage causes oxidative stress. So what are free radicals? Free radicals are these unstable particles that are going to bombard every part of the cell, right? So this is a normal cell. So the free radicals will start bombarding it and kind of degrading it, and then you get an unhealthy and eventually a dead cell. So this is what happens inside the body. For you to visualize it, just think of what happens when you leave an apple. If you cut it and you leave it on the counter, what's going to happen? It's going to turn brown. Why is this happening? We know it happens. That's why you put food in the fridge, so it's less oxygen. That's why when you put things in a little plastic bag, you kind of squish the air out, right? Because we know that things that are in contact with oxygen will oxidize and turn brown. This is rusting on the outside. This is rusting on the inside. This is what goes on inside. So to give you another kind of silly example, why is this happening? When for your car to run, you need to put gas. So you put gas in, that's the energy, makes the engine run. So for us mammals, we need to eat food and we need to breathe air to make energy for our bodies to function, for everything in our body to function. So we cannot escape this creation of these free radicals, and being in contact with that oxygen that we breathe is creating more and more free radicals. And it is creating something called oxidative stress. So it has been estimated that this is the amount of free radicals. This is 300 septillion, I think, free radicals per day is what a dog makes. Now, this is linked to over 200 diseases, including cancer, both for humans and animals. But imagine that this is just from eating and breathing. And now, okay, we're going to add all of this stuff. So you see, it's just a massive, massive amount that the body can really not cope with. And that is what it breaks down. So there's a theory of aging that is the excessive accumulation of oxidative stress, and it causes this damage. So what we have been told so far is that if we eat lots of fruits and veggies, right? Eat 7 to 9 servings of fruits and veggies, and the more colorful, the better, and the berries and the kale and the spinach. But here again, this is the food. So this is what we should be eating. This is what our dogs and cats are eating. So you tell me if you see anything in here that resembles any kind of color from here, right? It's just not there. The nutrition is not just there. So why we are told that we need to eat lots of antioxidants is because that's the only solution we had so far. Because a direct antioxidant coming from, good food, one molecule of antioxidant will destroy one free radical, and that's it. So it's 1 to 1. So it has to come from good food, nutritious food, colorful food that's loaded with antioxidants, but it's just 1 to 1. So to give you an idea, if you get a handful of blueberries, just a handful of blueberries, it will neutralize around 2,600 free radicals. But this is the amount we make. So if you do the math, can you imagine how many truckloads of blueberries and spinach and kale and oranges and bell peppers and you name it, we would need to eat to be able to even make a tiny dent on these amount of free radicals. So oxidative stress that is created by free radicals is going to affect every single organ system in your dog or your horse or your cat or yourself. So it affects the brain, it affects the heart, the kidneys, the liver, the joints, the gastrointestinal system, the immune system, blood vessels, skins, lung, and eyes. I did a quick Google search the other day, and I put top reasons dogs go to the vet. The top 10 were gastrointestinal issues, joint issues, skin, eye infections, and ear infections. And then as the dogs get older, it's usually the heart and the kidneys that start to give in, okay? So why are we so excited about this information? So nutrigenomics, with using nutrition, we can change our gene expression, and that falls into this category that we call biohacking. So we normally associate hacking with something bad, like they hack my bank account, my credit card. But what hacking means is taking control of a system and making it work like you want it to work, right? So the bad guys get into your account, they make it to work in their favor, so they get your money out. So, but when we biohack, we're talking about a biological system. So we're taking a biological system, we're hacking it to make it work optimally using nutrition, and we can change gene expression. So what new science has uncovered is that there are pathways inside our cells. Think of a pathway as an instruction. So it's a blueprint. So like if you're going to build a house, you have a set of blueprints that is for the electrical, and another that's for the plumbing, and another one that's for the roofing, and another one that's how you're going to build the walls, right? You have blueprints for everything. So so they're instructions, right? This is what you do. This is how many materials you need. So inside our cells, we have blueprints that tell the cell how it needs to behave. So there's an NRF2 pathway or blueprint that codes, so it gives instructions to protect the cell, to detox the cell, and to act as anti-inflammatory, natural anti-inflammatories inside our cells. So it's going to protect the cell against oxidative stress damage. It's going to tell the DNA that it needs to make more antioxidant enzymes, more anti-inflammatory enzymes, and more detoxifying enzymes. This is highlighted because of all those toxins. I think this is crucial, and it makes such a huge difference in our animals because of the amount of toxins they have. Their poor little bodies are not able to get rid of them. So we need to help. They're going to repair the DNA, and they're going to regulate. This is something called apoptosis. So repair DNA is like cleanup. It's like every time you make a copy, every time a cell makes a copy of itself, it's using the DNA. But then there's little mistakes, there's little hiccups that happen. And the cell has the ability to detect those mistakes and repair them so that when it makes the copy, it doesn't copy the mistakes. So you want to fix it before it makes a copy. So that's the DNA repair. And then apoptosis, it simply means that cells have a cycle. So they're supposed to, multiply, and you have a life, and then they die. So they're born, they live a life, and then they die. When that system is messed up, the cells keep multiplying. And that's one of the theories of how tumors develop. So this is just a very interesting point, because what I want you to grasp with this information is not that, this is a cure, this is a slam dunk. This is just turning on all these things inside the cell that now can help the cell function at its peak and, do the cleanup and do the detoxifying. And then hopefully we can ward off all those other bad things, okay? Another pathway is called NRF1, and NRF1 increases mitochondrial function. And you may remember the mitochondria from 6th grade. Some of you may, some of you may not. I love biology, so I like that stuff and I like to read about it. But think of the mitochondria as the power plants of a city. So if the power plant of the city is not functioning, it gets struck by lightning, there's some sort of issue, and it falls apart. Guess what? We have no electricity in the houses or the streets, the lights in the street, anything, right? Everything shuts down, nothing functions. So inside the cell, those power plants are these little organelles called mitochondria. And we have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of mitochondria per cell. So a heart cell can have like 3,000 to 5,000 mitochondria in just one cell. Can you imagine that? Teeny, and we have like 4,000 or 5,000. Your brain, your heart, and your muscles have the most amount of mitochondria because those are the organs that need energy, like boom, on demand immediately, right? So when these pathways that code for healthy mitochondria are activated, you will have increased cellular energy and increased physical performance. So this is crucial for those of you that have performance animals. If you compete with your dogs like I do in agility, if you have any horse that is doing any kind of competition, that is going to give them a huge edge. So what we have is that NRF2 can be activated. It's NRF2 activated. So think of it as turning on that NRF2 pathway. It's telling the cell, hello, wake up. We need you to make more of the antioxidant, detoxifying, and anti-inflammatory enzymes. So there is a product, NRF2 Protandim, that is made up with 5 natural herbs. They're very specific parts of the herbs. So the turmeric is the root, green tea, bacopa, milk thistle, and ashwagandha. You may have heard of some of those. Some of you may even have taken turmeric or green tea. Those are the most common ones. Some of you may know of milk thistle, like a huge liver detox. But they did some tests in humans. These were clinical trials. And the results were so outstanding, they were able to obtain a patent. This is unheard of. You cannot patent herbs. You cannot patent plants because they belong to nature. So they patented a formula that had these amazing results. So what happens with oxidative stress is that as we age, it keeps creeping up. Up. So when we're young, we're here, right? And when we're approaching 80, we're up here. So what they found is that when people took this formula, look where the oxidative stress level stayed. So their conclusion was that at the end of the study, we could not tell the difference between the blood of an 80-year-old person and the blood of a 10-year-old person. And this was just unheard of. Unheard of. So this in itself is unbelievable. And then with the NRF1, same thing. It's all natural ingredients, and these activates these genes. One of them by 65%, 71%. These are the genes that tell your cell to make more mitochondria, to get rid of the old mitochondria that are not working. That cleanup process in the body is super, super important. Think of it as like if you never changed the oil in your car and you just kept pouring oil instead of getting rid of the old oil, at some point your car would just stop working, right? So think this cleanup process has to happen inside our cells. And these pathways allow for that to happen. So why were they able to patent this formula? What they discovered is that when they tried how much activation or how much, this is one of the detoxifying enzymes, it's called glutathione. If you have not read up a little bit on glutathione, this is magical. What this is this huge molecule here, and it is the equivalent of like sticky fly paper. So all the bad stuff sticks to it, and then the body can get rid of it. So it helps the liver. So all the toxins, all the heavy metals, all the yucky things that we come in contact with. So imagine the dogs exposed to that massive amount of toxins. They all get stuck here and boom, excreted out in the poop and in the pee. It's just amazing. So they did these studies where they were measuring how much these pathways that we've been talking about are activated with the individual ingredients, and you see we get either nothing, negative, a teeny bit, but in that patented formula, boom, 18% more effective. So this is just incredible. So when we activate our God-given these molecules, these antioxidant enzymes, only one enzyme is able to eradicate 1 million free radicals per second. So can you see now how this could really make a dent in this, right? Because just one molecule can destroy 1 million free radicals per second. So, and the enzymes can recycle themselves. So it's not just, remember with the direct antioxidant, it's 1 and 1 and they're both destroyed. Now it's 1 in 1 million and boop, we start again. 1 in 1 million, boop, we can start again just with that same molecule. This is my favorite, glutathione. Look at all the benefits. Increased energy, slows down aging, reduces muscle and joint discomfort, strengthens the immune system, detoxifies the liver, improves mental focus and clarity, improves quality of sleep, reduces the effect of stress, improves the skin and athletic performance and recovery. So for those of you that have performance animals, so it's going to reduce muscle and joint discomfort. That's a win. It's going to improve the mental focus, right? Because we need focused animals to be able to perform, and reduces the stress. For those of you with horses, you know, the transporting the horses, all of that causes stress. Skin. Remember what I said, the top 10 things that dogs go to the vet? Skin issues and the athletic performance. So similar to what was happening, what I showed you in the other graph, this is as we age. So this is how our oxidative stress goes up, 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 up. And this is how the levels of glutathione, that antioxidant enzyme, go down, 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 down. So can you see how it's no wonder how our bodies can't cope, because we have increased levels of oxidative stress and less ways on how to protect our bodies and detoxify our bodies. So for our poor little dogs, the combination is even more deadly. So here's the little mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. That's how it was taught in 6th grade biology. But so there is a mitochondrial disease, which is a genetic disease. But just imagine, these are all the things that can go wrong when your mitochondria are not working optimally. So diabetes, epilepsy, unexplained liver failure, cancer, eye disease, unexplained kidney disease, heart disease and heart failure. For humans is autism and ADHD, hearing loss. These are all the dementias, Parkinson's, all the brain function issues, learning disabilities. So all of this is affected by your mitochondria. So can you imagine if we have if we activate our mitochondria and we make more mitochondria, we have healthy mitochondria that makes lots of energy, then we are protecting ourselves. We're protecting ourselves from all of this stuff that could go wrong. So this is a quote from a book called Tripping Over the Truth. And it is about cancer and all the research that has been done in cancer. And there is a group of scientists that strongly believe that cancer is not a genetic disease, that it is a disease of the mitochondria. And that when the mitochondria, so that he says here, the condition of the mitochondria dictate the capacity of the cell to function over time. As they decline, cellular operations decline with them. This is just very, very interesting. Oh, here's the book. So this is the book, Tripping Over the Truth, how the metabolic theory of cancer is overturning one of medicine's most entrenched paradigms. We've been fighting cancer with radiation and chemo and surgery, and except for a handful of cancers, we're pretty much stuck on the same spot. For humans, you know, some cancers have some good survival rate. For a lot of people, they go in remission for a time and then it comes back. For the dogs, the chemo and the radiation is if available, it's very debilitating and it's very, very expensive. And it's just a tragic. People want to try to do everything to save their animals, and it's really not that effective. So mitochondria and cancer. Recent cancer research demonstrates that if a cancerous cell nucleus is transplanted into a normal cell, the cell remains normal. Isn't that weird? So I have a cancerous cell, I get the nucleus, I put it into a normal cell, nothing happens. However, if you transplant the mitochondria from a cancerous cell into a normal cell, the cell becomes cancerous. So these are just things that they're finding that are making the scientists think like, maybe we're looking in the wrong places, right? So cancer cells have damaged mitochondria. Damaged mitochondria send emergency signals and the DNA responds, and the cells begin to exhibit the hallmark features of cancer. Uncontrolled proliferation, that's that non-existence of that apoptosis, DNA mutations, and evasion of cell death. So that's why they say it's not that you have mutations create cancer, is the mitochondria start malfunctioning, that causes mutation, that leads to cancer. So very, very interesting. This is a very dense book. If you're like really into science, I recommend. I had to read it like in little bits and pieces because it was a little too much. So these are quotes from, so that's one of the doctors is interviewed that they talk about in that book. Thomas Seyfried was interviewed for this documentary. And look what he says here. All cancers are the same. And this is the one thing that people have a great deal of difficulty realizing. They think breast cancer is different from brain cancer, from colon, from bladder, and may be different in dogs than humans or mice, but you know, they are all the same. Cancer starts from damage to the respiration, regardless of the tissue. The mitochondria become damaged. Once the mitochondria become damaged, they throw out reactive oxygen species. Those are the free radicals. They are mutagenic and carcinogenic. So we can connect the dots, right? So let's recap a little bit. So now we have this NRF2 activation protocol, Protandim NRF2, and it protects by reducing free radicals by 40% in 30 days. So this is cellular protection. Then it's going to enable the cells to detoxify. It activates glutathione by 300%. This is huge. And you may read in some of the literature, or if you start researching, they want to sell you a bunch of glutathione precursors and things like that. The cell has to make glutathione by itself. It's a very complicated process. You cannot eat glutathione. So just like you can say, well, you can eat lots of oranges and tomatoes and have lots of vitamin C and spinach. That's the truth. But glutathione, the cell has to make it. And it's going to turn on survival genes and reduce inflammation. Then the NRF1 formula will increase the production of cellular energy, that's called ATP. It promotes formation of healthy mitochondria, and now we know how important healthy mitochondria are, and it will maintain peak cellular function. If you are research oriented, you want to go to pubmed.gov, because this is a site that is owned by the government, and it's the National Institute of Health. You can type NRF2 and you'll see that there's probably now, I did these slides a few months ago, it grows all the time, 20,000 studies and growing, and on NRF1 like 1,500 studies. So this is how new this information is. So this information that we're giving you here, most of the doctors don't know about it. NRF2, like if you have a doctor or a vet that has graduated within the last maybe 5 years, they might have heard about it. But if it's before than that, it's very, because it takes time from things to jump from the scientific world into the mainstream. Okay, so these are just, so I want to put the disclaimer here. It's not meant to treat, cure, mitigate any disease, but the pictures speak for themselves, right? So these are all animals that had these weird things, and they start getting activated with NRF2, and the weird things go away. This is a cat that belongs to a friend of mine. She passed away, but she was a rescue, and when my friend found her, her leg had broken. So you can see this is where the pad of her feet is, her little pads, but she was using this part of the foot because the foot had broken and had healed that way. So this started like this. This was a massive, just huge thing that she had there. And they had tried grafts and done all sorts of things. So the vet said, oh, there's nothing else we can do. We need to amputate the leg. So my friend called me like, hey, what if we tried this? So she lives in Brazil. So it was a little bit of an ordeal to get it to her, but we did. And she started sending me these pictures like, oh my God, like we can't believe it. And this is what it ended up being. So our body's ability to heal is just incredible when we give it the right tools. This is that NRF2 turning on the cell's own ability to reduce inflammation and heal from the inside out. This is another, he's not a student of mine, he belongs to one of my students. So Eli is this cutesy here, and Eli was diagnosed with such severe arthritis in his knee. This is his x-ray. So this is Eli's knee. This is what the knee, a normal knee should look like. So they x-ray him and they see this glob of stuff and they thought, oh my God, it looks like bone cancer. They even called the specialist at UF here in Florida. And when she looked, they did another x-ray. It's like, no, it's just, severe arthritis. They did some arthroscopic surgery, nothing helped. He was still limping. Again, amputate the leg. So I tell my friend, like, hold on, why don't you try this? And then a few months later, she's like, oh, you know who's doing great? Eli. Like, he's jumping back and forth from the car. He's running with these dogs. And I'm like, what? So Eli recently moved to Virginia. And this is Eli with all four legs running uphill in the snow with her grandkids. So we are thrilled about that. Remember when we discussed about skin issues, right? One of the top reasons dogs go to the vet. This is a rescue. Again, before, after. This little Shar-Pei, before, after. So just incredible, incredible results. I want to talk a little bit about prevention. This is because this is what I really, really want people to think about is, why do we have to wait for issues to appear? Why can't we prevent? This is actually what led me into the holistic path, because I was trying to get to the root cause of the disease, as opposed to just putting Band-Aids with, antibiotics and steroids. And then I said, well, why can't we prevent this in the first place? Like, let's try to do what we need to do so that it doesn't happen in the first place. So prevention is huge. And I think our dogs could live a lot longer than they're living now if we, took some steps early on. And why is early on so important? So we've all heard this theory that 1 year of a dog is equivalent to 7 years in a human. Well, that theory has been thrown down the toilet by a recent research, the University of California, that is done by looking at markers in the DNA. So because they've mapped the human genome and they've mapped the dog genome, they now can compare them, and they found these aging markers. And what they discovered, I cried when I first read this, is that dogs age exponentially. So what does this mean? That by 1 year of age, your dog is the equivalent of a 30-year-old person. By 4, it's a 50 to 53-year-old person. And then it starts kind of slowing down. So by age 9, 10, your dog is the equivalent of a 60, 70-year-old person. So can you see how much sense it makes? We need to start with the interventions early on here. And if you think about it, a female can have puppies, they're mature. By a year, they could have a litter of puppies, right? So if you compare that to a human, it kind of makes sense. So this is very sad, but it's true. It's scientific proof. They did this, and that's what they discovered. So it is so important for us to start early on adopting as many changes as possible, because by the time, I was the one that thought like, when my dog is 7, maybe they're older. Well, no, they're a lot older, a lot. My Carolee's and her dog and my girls, they're going to be 5 in November. And I'm like, oh my God, they're already 50. Can't be. So in closing, anything that ends in itis means inflammation. So inflammation, oxidative stress causes inflammation, which leads to disease. And if we stay stuck in this cycle, right, because we have oxidative stress by all those massive toxins in the environment, not feeding, good nutritious food. So we're creating more and more oxidative stress. It's being accumulated in the body. It's going to create more inflammation. It's going to create more disease. And here we go, and we stay stuck in this cycle. They even have now a new term called inflammaging. So inflammation leads to premature aging. Okay, very, very sad. So now we know that this patented NRF2 activation product is proven to reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days, and even lower with continued use. So we have to use it forever and ever and ever. So I'll let you fill in the blank. If we can reduce oxidative stress so effectively, if we can reduce this, we can stop this. Okay. So the elephant in the room. Yes, this is an MLM. Who cares? If we have results like Carolee had with that lady with the Shar-Pei that was told to euthanize him twice, and now he's happy and living and eating, I don't care how this is sold. I just know that it works. So we are, Walmart, it's just think of an MLM it's just a way to distribute products. So just like you go to Walmart distributes products in the stores, Amazon distributes products online, LifeVantage, which is the company that makes these activators, distributes through distributors. And if you are needing a second income or are toying with the idea like, it'd be nice to have an additional income or a second business where I can't be fired from, and doesn't depend on pandemics and the economy and all of that. So this provides flexibility. You're paid what you're worth. You're in control, so you're not going to lay yourself off from your own business. You can advance as quick as you want. And for us, we're following our passion, which is helping the animals. Another good points are it's a low entry point. It's an online business, so you don't have to stock products. The technology is patented and it's backed up by science. There's 24 peer-reviewed studies in that PubMed site that I told you about. The importance of peer-reviewed is because if you Google, anybody can put anything online. But peer-reviewed means that it has to go to 5 scientists in the same field as that study. They have to say, yes, this is solid science. We've reviewed it. We've looked at the results. We've looked at the scientific method. It's a valid and it can be published. It usually takes about 4 years for a study to be accepted, to be published in PubMed. And the NRF2 protandem manufactured by this company, LifeVantage, has 28 so far. So there's undeniable science that this works, and it's done by independent universities all around the world. So I want as many people as possible to join us. We're recruiting voices. Like I said, our mission is to help 100,000 animals live longer, happier lives by sharing this information. We do it like this and with these events and social media. We have other meetups, but this is our goal. Less of this, more of this. We're working with a very successful team, and we work it's mostly women, like you see here. We have Dave. Dave has joined us. We're so excited, but he owns a holistic store and he's excited to start sharing this with all his customers. But we're working with a very successful team that is showing women all around the world how to create additional income from their computers, from their phone, and we're following our passion to join the animals. So if this is something that calls to your heart, please get back to the person who invited you and let him know if you just are interested in using the products or if you want to become part of our team. But I want to leave you with this thought is, how many more Eli's are out there waiting for someone like us to show them there's a better way? And I get really emotional because this happened like almost 5 years ago. And last time we did this, the stupid video didn't want to play because apparently the internet doesn't allow it. But this is the last, this is a creek. You see the creek here? And this is Eli jumping. He leaps the creek and runs to the other side and keeps on running. This is almost 5 years after she was told his leg needed to be amputated. And he is such a happy dog and brings joy to her life every single day. So these products are amazing. They're amazing what they can do for animals. And we need to help them. We need to help them because what we are doing between the diet and the toxins is just unconscionable. And, we are responsible. We need to be the voice for the voiceless. We need to do better by them, by, clearing out these toxins out of their body and giving them a fighting chance and giving them better food and better water and really taking a look at what ingredients and what things we're bringing into the environment, because they're paying with their lives. They really are. So, Carolee, I'm going to give it back to you.
Lillian, thank you so much. And we just get so wrapped up in being able to help the dogs. I'm not going to get started. But when you see what this last one that she was talking about, the Shar-Pei, I don't really know the woman, but we're Facebook friends, and I couldn't not try to help. It was just so dramatic and it was so sad. And we're so glad when we can help. And it just, oh my gosh, it's so simple. It's so simple to use these products. They just eat the pill. It's so simple. So, but what Lillian and I would really appreciate is if there's additional specific information you would like for her to kind of touch on in the future, please, you can message Lillian or me or whoever invited you. We would surely appreciate it. And we'd really like to hear your feedback too, because we do this to bring the best information we can to as many people as we can. So whatever you can help us with, we really appreciate that. And like I said, message any of us, whoever brought you in, or Lillian or myself, and we will surely do whatever we can.